Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 31 of Unleash Your Inner Badass. And we have here today with us Fran Lobster, Brandy Shaver. Why did I forget your name suddenly?
Forgot my name, but great.
Usually I forget my own name because it's so long. And Kat Krasilnikov, and we are the founders of Beach Boss Influencers, which is an online coaching community for network marketers and entrepreneurs who want to learn how social media works, how online marketing works, and how to build your audience and your influence so you never have to chase your clients and your customers. We're going to talk about something different, a little bit different. That's what I feel like it is. So, we all recently read a book by Dan Hardy, 10x is easier than 2x. And we recommended it to all of you guys million times in probably our past month. That's all we've been talking about. And um, going towards the end of the book and the conclusion, there was some incredible information shared that literally like shook our world this morning, and we decided to share it with you. So, what is described in there is based on a scale. I don't know who came up with the scale, what they measured it with, or whatever. The range of our emotions, right, and feelings that we operate in, let's say they measured it on the scale from 0 to 2,000, right? 2,000.
1,000. Yeah, 1,000.
1,000.
Mhm.
1,000. And so they measure it through some scientific things and whatnot. I'm not going to go into the details. So, what they came up with was quite shocking that majority of people, the majority, I would say, what, 80% of
Mhm.
all entire Earth population of all times, and now in particularly, operates in the range of 100, which is equal to fear,
I,
and
yeah.
to 150, which is equals to anger. Ouch. To me, it was like, and we're part of
What?
it. Like we're not, different, a lot different from the statistics ourselves, right? That just made me thinking like, oh my God, 80% of Earth population of all times lives in the range from 100 max 250, which is in between fear and anger. And if you look at our world right now and how people react to it and what they actions they take, yeah, I truly kind of believe this is quite close
Mhm.
to accurate.
Mhm.
So, what we want to talk about today is how unconscious we are of this situation. And we all think that this is normal and this is just how life is without realizing that we attract more of the experiences and events that make us feel fear and anger. And
Mhm.
it's actually our choice. Do we want to stay there, right? And operate from fear and anger, or we actually want to make a different choice and choose for ourselves how we want to react to life and how we want to feel, and maybe what we want to change, right? Because the change starts from ourselves. You cannot change the world if you're not willing to change yourself. So, this is kind of like where we at. I feel like it's a huge topic for discussion, but we're going to try to get somewhere with it. So, let us know if you're just tuning in. How do you, what do you think about this information? Where do you think you are on this scale? And friend's gonna share with you more like what is the highest range, right? And where's
Mhm.
love on this scale? Where's compassion? Where's I don't know, some positive joy, right? Where they are on the scale, and where do you think you at, right? Well, this was shocking to me that majority of people is fear and anger. To me, I'm thinking I might be somewhere up to 200, like not very far from the majority, but I'm certainly aware that I'm not living in constant fear and anger. So I used to
Yeah.
probably not very long ago, but I'm now consciously aware when I slip into that um, environment, my mindset, that fear and anger mindset, and I know how to get myself out of it. The sad part is majority of people don't even know they're there. They don't know they're there. And they don't know how it affects their life, and they don't know that they can make it.
One of the other things too about the whole thing is that those people, and we were there, so we don't want to like sound like we're coming off as judgmental because we're not,
No,
like at all.
we've all been there, and we
So
all
we've
go
all been
there
there,
quite
right? And
often.
yeah,
Yeah.
we slip into there sometimes still, but it's kind of like when you guys have all heard the story about the lobsters in the bucket, right? That lobster tries to get out of the bucket and the rest of the lobsters pull them back. So you literally you end up becoming like the 5 people that
The
you
other
hang around
lobster.
with, right?
Yep.
You
Yep.
end up becoming whatever lobsters you let pull that you back down. And this is the hardest part because even though you're an entrepreneur and maybe you're vibrating at a higher level and you know these things, you're consciously aware of a lot of this stuff going on. Sometimes you live with spouses that are in this place. Sometimes you have, children that are in this place, adult children or smaller children or whatever. Sometimes it's your parents. Sometimes it's your work circle, right? Like, and when we talk about fear and anger, we're talking about the complaining about the government, living in fear that we're at war or whatever, right? Like that the world's going to end and all of this, like negative, anything negative, that vibration of negativity. I would say that there's probably more fear than there is anger, but I mean, the statistics that Fran was sharing earlier kind of say the whole thing. So Fran, if you want to share
So
that.
let
Yeah.
me, so yeah, and I'm going to add on to that, but I want to, so it was actually Dr. David Hawkins who developed this map of consciousness, and he said anything below 200 is operating from a negative emotion. Okay, so that's where
So
fear,
guilt, apathy, fear, or anger,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And then the higher emotional, energies include acceptance, which is 350, love, which is 500, joy, which is 540, and peace, which is 600. And then it goes even higher up, up to 1,000. Okay. Now, I'm going to add to what Brandy says about, the lobsters in the bucket, because I think another thing that keeps a lot of people in fear, keeps a lot of people in anger, is their habits. Of daily, checking social media, of daily checking the news, of seeing what's happening all over the world, of maybe, watching, Netflix or whatever, or programs that are maybe dragging their emotions into that fear and anger. And so I think it's not only checking the people that you are surrounded by, okay,
It's
and
what you're bringing into
but
your own.
what are you bringing into your life as well? What are you bringing into your into your day every day? How are you starting your day? Is it turning on the news and seeing, oh, what's happened overnight? Do you go to bed checking the news again? Okay, let's see what's happened during the day. Is it checking, I mean, it's too easy to check the news all the time on your phone. And so I think so often that feeds it, and it becomes like a drug.
Yeah, it's a dopamine fix, right?
Yeah,
That
that
we're
you've
all
got to keep.
aware of, but
Yeah,
it's almost like we're aware it happens, but we're not aware it's happening to us.
yeah,
Like if you find yourself that you can't go without picking up your phone every, even 10 minutes, it's a dopamine hit
yeah,
that you're looking for. It's
yeah.
not even really what you're doing on social media. So one of the things too that you want to remember is that because a lot of people get pissed off with social media and they'll turn it off, right? They're like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm going to totally check out with social media, right? Like I'm done. Like I can't find anything that I want to. Well, here's the secret, guys. Social media is trained by you, by your exact human behavior. So when you're blaming social media that you're only seeing the negative and all that stuff, guess what? That's what you're actually looking up. So and I've done this as a test just to see, because I had a point in, it's been a while back now, but where everything, that River got TikTok on her iPad, and this has been a while back. And she had all this racial stuff, and she'd never been on social media before, right? So she just had all this racial stuff things that weren't good for River. She's only 11, right? So, I was monitoring what was going on and those kind of things. And, just she was going with what was in the feed. Well, that was what was in the feed. So then we started to train it to what River wanted to see, right? She wanted to see funny goat videos and she wanted to see cat videos, some funny stuff that we could laugh at. So we started training the algorithm and looking those things up. So when you're saying that it's social media, yes, when you pick it up and you just first get on there, it's probably a lot negative. But if you stick in that negative, you're not searching out those positive things like funny cat videos and, funny jokes and all those things that we want to see on social media, then that's on you. All you have to do is go search up like 10 to 50 new accounts and start following the ones that you like, and it will change your whole social media, right? So I don't think people understand how it works. It is based on human behavior. That's it, right? So what is your behavior?
It's kind of like epiphany just came to my mind. Social media is just like money. It's just a tool, and it's not. There's no negative or positive energy
Yeah.
in it. It's neutral, but that's what you make it mean. That's how you make a use of it. The same with money, right? Some people think money is evil. That's why I don't want a lot of it, right? But money is neutral, just like social media is, and how you use it, what you think of it, is what energy you're going to receive with the money. Now, the also speaking of the social media, one time someone asked on one of our coaching calls, well, how do you deal with all the negativity on social media? And I'm like, what?
What? What? What
Yeah,
negativity?
like I don't see any of that stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's because, like Brandy said, I train my algorithm not to show me that stuff, because you will be surprised how smart those social media algorithms are. They know what they showed you, right? They keep track of everything. So they know what content they showed you. They know where you stopped the scroll and for how long. And based on that timing, those seconds, sometimes even like milliseconds, they know if you were interested in that content or completely not. So, based on if you just scrolled through or you scrolled slower and read one line, right? Or you actually read for 5 minutes, right? Or watched for how long. And so it tracks everything. It's very smart. And also some people say, well, this is dangerous thing, right? They track
It is.
all of our movements. It's also how you look at it. Like we said,
Yeah.
it's a neutral thing, right? It can be the best tool out there
Yeah.
for anything, right? It's how you see it. It could be social media, could be like a connecting tool. Like you can connect with your relatives who live on another side of the world. Could you do it 100 years ago?
No, absolutely
Yeah.
not.
You had
No.
to take a boat for 2 months to see them. Right? So we can be grateful for these tools because they have changed our lives immensely. Like it's incredible. You can buy anything on social media now. Yes, can be good, could be bad. You can, I don't know, like you can do so many things now with just these little devices and apps that we have. Now
It's
can
the same. It's the same with a lot of different things. For instance, we just had Halloween, right? For those of you that celebrate Halloween. And I've noticed just because my behavior is like listening to humans, right? And I notice what they say and what they do. And to me, Halloween is it's neutral. It is what you make it, right? Like
it
same
is
with
what you
Christmas,
make it. Yeah.
same with Easter, same with, whatever, right? And so there's a bunch of people in my little town that don't believe that Halloween should be celebrated. Like they're like, we're Christians and Halloween is like opening up the door for the devil. And I'm thinking, I've actually never thought about it that way. I think of it as all the kids get to dress up and all the neighborhoods get to see their costumes and they're smiling and they get candy. That's what I've made
That's what
Halloween
I
from.
Yeah.
think of it.
Right?
Yes.
It's fun. It's just a
Right?
fun. It's just
I'm like,
yeah.
it's a fun holiday for the kids and they love it. And I love seeing all the babies and the teenagers. I had tons of teenagers come to the door last night and I was happily giving them handfuls of candy because I love them, right? I love to see them. And that's what I've made Halloween out to be. But when you look at the other side of
When
it,
you
right?
look
This
at the
fear
nature
mongering,
of their reaction to it or their
right?
perception of it, there's fear in there.
And
You can
there's no
feel
right or
fear,
wrong. I'm not saying
right?
that right or wrong. I'm just saying it is what you make it, right? Like
Yeah.
Yes, it's what you make it.
it's what you make it.
It's
That's what it boils
everything
down
what you
to.
make it. And my social media algorithm is trained to show me controversial spiritual videos.
Mhm.
What I mean by controversial, it's um like there's some guru person in the spiritual world will say something that challenge my beliefs big time. Like it will say something that will be like, what in the heck? And
Yeah.
then I noticed that I train myself, or I don't know, my brain, my personality, not to react to that information like, oh, this is a bullshit. Oh, or this is
Right.
yes, this is the best thing ever, right? I agree with you. I train myself to look at it neutrally and then decide, does this make sense to me?
Mhm.
Or it completely doesn't. So I everything I filters through my own, I don't know, does it my own experience, my own personality, my own needs, my I don't know. So, and for some people it could be, yes, it's the best thing ever. I agree with it 100%, but for some will be like, what a nonsense thing,
Yeah.
right? Like total doesn't make any sense. So I always kind of like admire people who tell others, don't take my word as your belief, right?
Right.
Take my word, get it through your perception, your life, your own filter, and then decide if this information
If
is
it fits
useful
for
for you
you.
or
If
not.
it's if
So
it's a
I
fit for
admire
you, yeah.
people who do that.
Yeah.
So the reel showed up from one of those spiritual gurus who said one of those controversial things, and he said everything that happens in life is neutral, like everything that happens, like almost like to me it was like God doesn't care,
Mhm.
like doesn't give a crap that what happens. And I was like, you know what, I kind of felt that way many times. So and it's our, that's what they said, it's our life's purpose to make a meaning to it, to
Mhm.
give it a meaning. And I was like, holy crap, makes total sense, right? Because something good or bad can happen in the world, and one person will say this was the best thing ever and the other person will say this was the worst thing ever. And who's right, who's wrong, we can argue forever and nobody gonna prove the point because it's neutral.
Right.
It's all about what
Yeah, it's all
you
about
make
what
it
you
What
make
mean.
it mean.
what
That's
we
the
make it
bottom
mean.
line. Yeah,
Yeah.
what meaning you give to it. So if you want more on how to learn about social media, go watch The Social Dilemma. It's a documentary on Netflix. And like when I watched it, you have to, of course, you have to assign it a meaning, right? Like, what does this mean? And to me, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just so that you're aware of how it works, right? Because there's a few core drivers for human beings. One of them is emotion, one of them is fear of missing out, and the other one is logic. So
Mhm.
if you're running around with just your emotional brain exposed, and people are fear mongering about whatever, doesn't matter, it could be war, it could be Israel, it could be Halloween, it could be whatever, right? Then your emotional intelligence is going to be in that bucket of lobsters in emotion, right? But if you can move to the logic box and you find it a meaning, right? And you assign it a meaning, then do you see how you can higher your vibration? Like I don't know. To me, that lobster bucket and all of them pulling you down, it's the emotional bucket almost.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So,
So
and fear of missing out is kind of the same thing. But yeah, it's interesting how human behavior and how we think. But yeah, Fran, looking at this, like according to Dr. Hawkins' research, over 80% of the global population operate
mhm.
between 100, which is fear, right, and 150, which is anger, in terms of their individual level of consciousness and emotional development. That's
Yeah.
pretty scary,
It is
right?
scary. And so
Like
if
you
you
go
if
back to the vid, right? Like with that whole thing and everybody freaking out over toilet paper. That's the scary part, right? Like you're like, what, our emotional intelligence is not high enough to go, okay, there are other options than just toilet paper to survive. Like let's get real here, right? Like but everybody
I
went nuts over toilet paper. Like
I can
it's
add
that's crazy.
actually that it's our brains preferability, I would say. I don't know how I would call it, to look for the negative because it's one of its survival mechanisms,
Mhm.
Mhm.
which served us many, many times in a good way for millions of years when we
And
had
still
to,
does
you know,
sometimes.
it
Yeah.
still does, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times it doesn't serve us anymore because we live in a different world where we're not chased by tigers or don't live in caves and don't have to be in constant search for danger, right? Because if you didn't search for danger back in the days, you'll be eaten or, I don't know, lost somewhere in the woods, whatever, and then eaten. But yeah, it served us for many years, but we're still wired the same way like we were 100,000 millions years ago, and our brain naturally still is looking for that negative thing to keep us safe and alive. But I would say the first step is to be aware
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you just fall into that pattern of constantly looking for negative. The second step is not letting that negative stuff that's your brain still going to keep picking up from the environment, not to let it affect your emotional environment, because honestly, how we feel is the only thing that we can control.
Mhm.
We
So you
can't
have to have
control,
number 2 would be not getting triggered, right, by whatever
or
emotion.
at least if you
Yeah.
Or
did
it's that
get triggered,
awareness that that
be aware
that's
of it,
something
that
that is
got
Yeah.
is a
triggered,
trigger for
right?
you.
Don't just fly off the handle and, start
Right.
your
Yeah.
hair on fire and
And a lot of times, uh we do react because we're humans. That's part of our nature. We react to things and we react negatively majority of the time, right? Even if that happened, you need to be aware that, okay, when that happened, I reacted this way. Did it serve me? Did it serve people around me? What can I do differently next time the same thing happened? Even something
Mhm.
simple as being in the morning traffic, like 7 a.m., right? I'm taking kids to school. I drive through tons of construction, tons of friends just drove with me a month ago, right? And I do sometimes yell at people like, you, da, 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 where are you going? Right. And then I catch myself like, why do you let small things like this affect your day? Like, it's not worth it. Right. And I kind of shake it off immediately and I switch into something like, oh, look at this. Look at these tree colors. And even the fact that I can get kids to school that's 12 miles away in 20 minutes, if
that's
it was
pretty good.
if it
Yeah.
was 100 years ago, that probably would take us a couple days to get there.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the thing is
definitely.
letting things that are out of your control that you have absolutely no control of, like letting them go. Like
Let
not
it go.
letting them affect your emotion, not letting them drag you into that fear, let you not letting you drag them not letting them drag you into that anger. So if you I would love to hear from you if you want to like let us know where do you feel like right now you're operating. And immediately that's going to bring that awareness. That's going to bring that awareness that, oh, okay, like I operate mostly in fear and anger, you know? And yeah, I'm letting all the people around me drag me down. I'm letting those lobsters in the bucket drive,
Mhm.
drag me down. Or, maybe, yeah, I check the news all the time and it is dragging me down. I mean, there's a lot of bad shit happening in the world right now. So,
Right.
it's dragging me down. It's pulling me down into this fear and anger. Um, and then having the courage, okay, like say, okay, like I'm aware of this now. How can I lift myself up? It'll
I think
start
it's the
by,
courage and the commitment, right? Because
yeah,
you have to be able
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
commit to the process. And
yeah,
that's the same thing with Ridge just recently. He's about 15 and he's got his TikTok and that kind of thing. And again, for those of you that don't agree that kids don't have that they don't need social media and that kind of thing, that's your decision. Don't come at me, right? Like this is my decision for my family, right?
Well,
But
as long as they're gonna come out at you, you don't care.
right. And if you do come out with me, I don't care because I feel like that my children growing up in this age where we're at and what's going on, they need to learn how to
yeah,
navigate the whole thing, right?
yeah,
So with Rich
Right.
being 15, he has TikTok and he's, watching TikTok and he came to me one day And he's like, Mom, I'm just, so depressed. And this is one of the things that we have happening with the youth, right? They're in this depressed emotional state and everything. They just feel like there's no way out. And what's the point of being here? And they just feel like, like there's no hope. And that's the reason that the suicide rate is so high.
Yeah.
Right. So when he, and I monitor the stuff, so I see it happening. Right. And he came to me because I'm trying to teach him how to be aware, evaluate what's going on, if it's a fit for him or not. Right. Because I want him to be a human being that has compassion and that knows how to function in a world of all different beliefs and systems that go on, because that's the reality of where we're at. Right. So he brought that to me and I said, Rid, what might you do to not feel this way anymore when you're looking at social media? And he said, well, I could go search up goat videos and cat videos that make us laugh, right? So he is aware, right, that this is what's happening now. And now he's committed that when that stuff comes up in his newsfeed, that he just scrolls on by, right? Like it's, nope, I don't want this in my life. And so he's made that commitment that he can control what comes into his environment. And that's, if a 15-year-old can do it, come on, guys, right? Like the rest of us can get on board.
Yeah, exactly.
So let us know what you're taking from this, because I think it's a huge conversation. I think we could talk about it for hours and hours and different things that, this is not just social media, right? It's the people we're hanging out with and the environment we work in and all of the things combined. It's what, like, what Fran said, what you're putting into your brain. Like if you're watching, Walking Dead and you're all of a sudden thinking the world's going to end and how you're going to survive, and you're building a bunker underneath, your house because you're worried. Do you see what I'm saying? Like So anyway, let us know what you're taking from this.
So I think to finish it up, I want to give you guys advice to intentionally work on raising your vibrations every single day. Because as humans, we tend to forget, like, especially those who meditate will kind of like know what I'm talking about. When we meditate, we get into those emotions of peace and joy and happiness. Actually, it's by choice, right? We could have chosen to go somewhere else, but intentionally, this practice helps us and many other people to intentionally raise our vibrations. But as we open our eyes and go back into the reality, right, stuff happens and we naturally react to things in the human way, which is also okay, right? And so, what I'm trying to say, although like some people intentionally know how to raise their vibrations and feel different emotions, it's very natural for humans to forget that and go back to fear and anger and whatnot.
Yeah, it's your lizard brain coming back out.
Yes.
That
So we tend to forget the good stuff. Even look at like someone described their past life. Nobody remembers the good stuff. Everyone's talk about the bad stuff that my parents were this, my sister was this.
Yeah, like
what was the good stuff?
Where's
Right?
the good stuff?
Like we forget it. Like we forget it. So we need to constantly remind ourselves and raise that vibration intentionally. And I'm gonna give you guys a fun tip on the traffic people that pissing you off and what to do with it. The one that I hate the most is when I'm about to pass through the light, right? It's green. I know that I'm gonna make it if I go with a certain speed and someone cuts you in front of you, right? And they make it through that light and you don't. Because you had to slow down, right? Because they cut in front of you. They made it through the light and you didn't. Like it used to piss me off big time. I would be like, oh, you this and this and this. Oh, and although I didn't let it affect my whole day, but I noticed that that's how I would react to it. So that's what I do now, right? If something like this happens, I tell myself, well, that's because you probably did not need to be where you're going at this time. You probably need to be there 60 seconds later, and that's okay. Or sometimes, oh, this person just remind me to slow down.
Yeah, and you want a story about traffic that would fit right into this? It's pretty incredible. So I haven't told many people this story. So there was a time where I was driving to the city. So it's 2.5 hours one way, right, to work and to build my business. And I was coming home and it was late. and I, was irritated already, probably hungry, and it was dark. And I'm speeding along, right, doing probably 10, 15 over the speed limit because I want to get home quicker. And this accident happened on the other side of the road. And so everybody was kind of like slowing down to like rubberneck. That's what I call it. They were rubbernecking what was going on the other side of the freeway. Anyway, this guy pulled in front of me and slowed down just enough that it made me mad. Exactly what Kat is saying. Like, get the hell out of my way, right? Like, I've got somewhere to be. It's like 9:30 at night. I got to get home to my family, right? And I moved over. So I signaled and moved over. And the instant I signaled and moved over, that truck blew up in front of me. And I watched, in the movies, how you see the car do the whole, and the things blowing up. And
Your
like,
rear view mirror.
yeah, in my rear view mirror. And I just started to sob. I was like, oh my hell, this was God moving me out of the way, pissing me off, because it's the only way to get me to move is to make me mad, right? Because I'm like that determined that I'm like, just get out of my way. So I'm like moved over. And I watched that whole scene happen in my rear view mirror. And it was like, life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. So there you go.
So even if someone pulls in front of you and makes you slow down and you mad at them, it happens for you, right? And just get over it and keep going. Maybe you didn't need to be at that next intersection, right? At this time, you had to be where you at right now. And the same in life. Like we sometimes, so get pissed off if this things don't work out or someone does something to us, and it's because we don't know the big picture yet, right?
You can't see life. You can't see how it came together for you until you're there and you look back, right?
Until you passed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
So
crazy.
it's, for me, it's finding gratitude in little things and okay, all right, that's fine. Like, go, that's fine. Somebody, you're in the supermarket and somebody takes the last thing of something that you wanted and there's none left, and you're thinking, I really needed that for my recipe. Instead of, I know you really needed that in your life today. Take it with grace.
I guess I'm cooking something different today.
Different, and it really is not the end of the world. It really is not the end of the world. So yeah.
No. All right. Well, if you guys need more on how to raise your vibration and grab the Unleash Your Inner Badass course, if you need that, let us know down below. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye, everyone.